right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Fans Only Sports Network podcast. No, start over. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy right here on Fans Only Sports Network. I'm your host, Chet. Of course, to my left this time around, instead of my right, I feel like the right-hand side is still good as the left. They're both basically the same, but my left-hand, right-hand man, Duffy. Duffy, how we doing today, man? Taking himself out, putting him back in on the right side, my right-hand man as opposed to my left-hand man, even though I'm a lefty. That still works out. Duffy, how we doing?
Doing great. I'm excited to be here, excited to get to work today.
Absolutely.
We had a really, interesting, Divisional Round weekend starting yesterday in the NFL. A couple of mediocre games, but hey, excited to get to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, we didn't really get to give you a lot of coverage this week. Our schedules were very busy in terms of actually getting to sit down and do an episode on Wild Card Weekend. Of course, a lot of the results already happening from yesterday. It's just been a crazy week. So we'll just give you some coverage right now on the Divisional Round playoffs and what's going on there. A lot of interesting things. Of course, we got to hop into game number 1 that happened yesterday in Kansas City between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, of course, we'll just give you a little bit of a recap on what happened with Jacksonville because, of course, Jacksonville trailed 27-7 in the wild card round at home, managed to pull off an ultimate comeback after 4 first-half turnovers by Trevor Lawrence, 3 of those going to Asante 2 of them going to Asante Samuel Jr., maybe 3, actually. He might have been picked off 3 times by Asante Samuel Jr. Anyways.
3. Was 3.
It was 3 times, and that is, in fact, the son of the Asante Samuel that all of us New England Patriots fans know very well. Of course, the Jags managed to mount an amazing comeback and a 31-30 win. They held the Chargers to 3 points and went on to Kansas City. And unfortunately, in the affair, Patrick Mahomes had himself a pretty interesting debut, which resulted in him leaving the game in the second quarter with an ankle injury. However, managed to come back and finish the game. He was in some discomfort, but the Chiefs managed to take care of business in a 27-20 win over the Jacksonville Jaguars and will move on to the conference championship game in which they will host.
Well, they won't host them if the Bills win. It'll be a neutral site.
That's true.
Played at in Atlanta, but hey, it was a good win by the Chiefs yesterday, 27-20. Mahomes got injured early in that one. He took a really awkward hit to the ankle / knee area. He actually missed a couple of drives. Chad Henne threw on those touchdown passes for the Chiefs. A little Chad Henne revenge game against the Jaguars. I was loving it, but
that's cool right there. And then, of course, we saw Chad Henne a few years ago help the Chiefs take the victory over the Cleveland Browns when Mahomes left the game injured.
Yeah, he got a concussion, and then somehow Mahomes played like a week later. I don't really know what was up with that, but
yeah.
Jacksonville, their bubble was going to burst at some point after winning 6 games in a row, and it did. They really failed to take advantage of Mahomes, getting injured and missing a couple drives, most of that second quarter, not all of it. But, Chiefs really had slowed down in the second half with Mahomes injured. I think this does raise a lot of concern for the Chiefs going to play the winner of Buffalo or Cincinnati next week, whether it be at home or down in Atlanta. But, it's going to be concerning. It's definitely going to be something that people will talk about in the week. There'll be a lot of narratives around it. But with that being said, Mahomes coming out, the MVP, throwing 2 touchdown passes in the game, threw one, hobbled. He couldn't really be mobile, stayed in the pocket, was standing there tall and still throwing dots. So that's the type of guy Mahomes is. Adds to his playoff legend a little bit. And it was a good win by the Chiefs. Absolutely. They ran the ball very well too.
Absolutely. And I do want to talk more about the Chiefs in just a moment, but we do need to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars because to me, this was a team that I definitely doubted going into that first round. You doubted it as well. We both picked the Chargers to win that game. And yet Jacksonville actually, despite losing this one, kept the game pretty close for the most part, including, I believe they had the lead at one point against the Chiefs at one point in this game.
No, I don't think they led the whole game.
Oh, wait, they were down by 3. They were down by 3 at one point.
Yeah, down by 3, down by 10 inside the 10-yard line. Jamal Agnew had that really bad fumble inside the 5-yard line on a drive that would have got them to within 3.
Yeah.
So this opportunities for Jacksonville, it really is a very Jacksonville way to lose a game like that. I don't think that team was ready to go into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs by
No.
any means. Still a young squad. They have a lot to look forward to in the future. And, Trevor Lawrence really questioned him the other week. If that season was, if these moments were too big for him in the NFL, especially after the Titans game where he didn't really play that well. Week 18, his defense kind of won them that game. I think Trevor Lawrence is, he really proved this last couple of months why he was the highest rated college recruit coming into the NFL in years. Since Andrew Luck or Peyton Manning, he was up there with those guys. People might be quick to forget, but absolutely great season by the Jaguars, team that was, I think, 2-7 on the year, or 2-6, I think it was. Really came and brought themselves out of the mud. And I don't think anyone would have believed if you told them that they would go to Kansas City and lose by one possession in the divisional round to end their season. So gotta give them credit where it's due. They were probably never going to beat the Chiefs, no matter what.
Yeah.
And just lost to the MVP of the National Football League this year.
Yeah, and
it's a successful season no matter what.
Yeah, it definitely is a successful season because you have to look back, as you said, starting at 2-6, won 7 of their last 9 games to finish on top of the division at 9-8, and this team managed to make a tremendous comeback in the wild card round to take down Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers at home. This is a team that really proved itself, and even you said Lawrence didn't play well in that Week 18 game against the Titans, but we saw the defense really step up when it matters, which means what we're seeing is this football team has promise. This is the team of the future, not just in the AFC South, but in the AFC. This is a team that will come next year ready to play, be competitive, and be
team of the future in the AFC. Come on, man. Come on.
The team of the future.
Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yes. This is a team that really turned my head this year. This is a team that next season will have Calvin Ridley on the roster, as he will end his suspension at the end of this season. He will be reinstated at the start of the year as long as he's not gambling anymore. But on top of that, the Jags are in a good position right now. This team could make some splashes in free agency, maybe get some more decent draft picks, and a lot of young, mature players. A lot of young players will mature this offseason, and especially from the experience this year. I think if the Jaguars can really continue to go to their bread and butter and really figure out themselves next year, I think we'll see them have more than 10 wins on the season. And I think this team will take the AFC South title once again. I think, sure, the Titans definitely have some promise to them. But if you have no number one guy to throw to, and your only bell cow is in Derrick Henry, he's your main weapon, Ryan Tannehill's your quarterback, I don't see this team going anywhere. The Titans have a solid defense, but at the end of the day, I see so much talent on this Jaguars unit. And throughout the weeks, it took them time, but they found their rhythm and their stride later in the year. I think if they take what they saw this season and apply it again to next year, this team will be in the hunt once again, maybe pushing for more than just the 4th seed in the AFC. It could be pushing for the 2-3 seed.
I mean, I think you're kind of sucking Jacksonville a little bit too hard. I think recency bias is alive and well. If you're saying they'll be the team of the AFC, and
one of the teams,
I think they'll be lucky
AFC
to stay within the elite part of the AFC. So this AFC is dangerous. We got 4 teams in the AFC with incredible futures at quarterback, maybe 5 if the Ravens resign Lamar Jackson. We got Bengals, Chargers, Chiefs, and Bills. It's going to be really hard for Jacksonville to stay in the upper echelon of AFC teams. I don't think we've seen enough of them to really say that at this point of this rebuild for Jacksonville. But, hey, they're going to be the AFC South favorites next year. See if they can do it back-to-back years, something they haven't done since the late 90s, since before I was born, around when you were born. But say they're going to be the future of the AFC, that's a little bit audacious, Chris. It's a little bit,
I think, I don't know. I disagree with you
hyperbolic,
on that.
I believe.
Yeah, but hey, you got to keep the hype real. This team proved itself this year, and despite losing to Kansas City, that's going to be its ultimate monkey off its back, is if it can take down a team like Kansas City or Buffalo down the road. This team has proven it can play well against elite teams. We saw it this season. They took down the Ravens. They took down the Cowboys in comeback wins. This team has proven that with that maturity, with that understanding going into the locker room at halftime, figuring themselves out, they make the adjustments properly. We've seen them make solid adjustments. And then even in, like I said, in that wild card game, they were dead to rights at halftime. I walked away thinking there was a tiny little thought in my head that was like, maybe they could pull some comeback magic like they did, against all the other teams they did in the regular season. They did just that. Did they do it this week? No, because the Chiefs are a much more experienced, a much more disciplined unit. But like I said, this is the team of the future of the AFC. It doesn't mean it's going to happen next year.
Oh my God, stop.
It's going to happen.
As long as the Chiefs still have Patrick Mahomes, they're the future of the AFC. Okay?
Whatever you say, buddy. Whatever you say.
Jacksonville's not the future of the AFC, bro.
It'll come down to if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl this year or go to the Super Bowl. The thing is they are in the conference championship, but last year they hosted the conference championship and lost to Cincinnati. Think about that. This team has not won a Super Bowl since they beat the 49ers back in 2019, the 2019-2020 season, maybe.
Oh, they haven't won the Super Bowl in 3 years.
Well, you're talking like they're a dynasty already. Like, chill out, bro. They won one. They won one Super Bowl. Give them
they run the AFC. They run the AFC. We saw it yesterday. Case in point.
Yeah, but they could have nearly lost it to the Bills if the Bills and Bengals played that game.
We'll see. I'm excited. I'm glad to say that we have the 3 best teams in the AFC as the last 3 teams remaining. So, glad the Ravens didn't beat the Chiefs last week on Super Bowl. Or beat the Bengals, I mean. I'm glad we have the 3 best teams in the AFC remaining. I believe the 3 best teams in the NFC are remaining too at this point. So probably the 6 best teams in the NFL, I think, are the last 6 teams remaining. And that's all you can really ask as a football fan.
Absolutely. So speaking of top teams in the NFC, the top team in the NFC, the number 1 seed Philadelphia Eagles hosted. Oh, that's quick. Anyways, hosted the New York Giants, and the Giants came into this game definitely riding high, a 31-24 victory in Minnesota. This was a team that I was like, yeah, this team has some promise to it and could potentially take down the Eagles. Boy, was I wrong. I questioned the Eagles because late in the year, you saw Hurts go down with an injury, missed 2 weeks, played the final week, nearly losing to New York at home, I believe. Yes, it was at home, 22-16.
Yep, they won,
however, they still walked away with the victory. I thought Hurts' injury was really going to be a factor. Didn't really seem to matter much. Eagles stomped on the Giants 38-7 in this one, and we'll move on to the conference championship game. Giants, they just simply don't have the talent offensively to really produce to beat a top team like these Eagles.
Yeah, that was a blow. I'd say that was an ugly game. Eagles just got running right up the field. It wasn't even close. I mean, Giants never had a chance. Really saw the difference between the Eagles defense and the Vikings defense. I mean, last week the Giants were running all over them. Saquon was open in the flat all game. This game, Saquon only had 2 catches for 21 yards and only 61 yards on the ground on only 9 carries for Saquon Barkley. But you're not going to win a lot of games when you're allowing 250 plus rushing yards to a team. That's what the Eagles were able to accomplish last night. Got the ball to Kenneth Gainwell, had a great game. Miles Sanders, doing his thing. Jalen Hurts through the air on the ground as well. Boston Scott getting in the mix too. I mean, this was a great performance by the Eagles. They got to Daniel Jones quick and early and often too. And final score says it all. I mean, 38-7 in the divisional round. We talk about how hard it is sometimes to beat a team 3 times in a season. And the Eagles, not only did they beat the Giants at full strength, full health, this season multiple times, but they blew them out on a couple of occasions. So it really shows the mismatches. It shows the Birds are still a very big force to be reckoned with, and they're going to host the NFC Championship next week in Philadelphia. And I'm sure the Birds fans are going to like that in the early window of next week's conference championship games.
Yeah, I definitely like the look of this one. It's definitely going to be a very interesting conference championship. As you said, the NFC goes through Philadelphia. Eagles yesterday, just a complete, utter destruction. Kenneth Gainwell and Miles Sanders both adding up for over 200 yards rushing. And I mean, Hurts didn't really have to do much in this one. He did rush for a touchdown on 34 yards and only threw for 154 on the day. And Daniel Jones sacked 5 times in the effort. Barkley held only 61 yards rushing. And Richie James really being the one guy to get a lot of these receptions. He had 10 targets on the day, 7 catches. It was just a really disgusting performance there by the Giants, and definitely in a season that looks very promising. But I think if you're the Giants, in a way, I mean, yeah, you got completely blown out by Philly, but you have to look back and say, hey, this was a team that was doubted to even make it this far. And so you got to say there's some success in and of that.
Yeah, a lot of success. Very successful season for the Giants. There were guys saying they were going to go 2-15, 3-14 this year. Be one of the worst teams in the NFL for about 6th year running. But Giants, I mean, with Brian Dable, Coach of the Year candidate, got a road playoff win this year. Successful season for them, no matter what. But not the way you want to end it. Losing by 31 on the road to your divisional rival in primetime. This kind of adds to the primetime Daniel Jones narrative. I believe he's now 0-13 in primetime all time, or 0-12. So that was ugly. It was not good.
No.
Daniel Jones himself after the game, he doesn't really know his future with the Giants either. So a lot of question marks to be answered for New York this season. But that was probably gonna be the worst loss by any team this weekend. Hopefully we don't get a game like that today. But that was tough. But I think the Eagles probably my NFC pick to win this, to make it the Super Bowl. I believe.
Yeah.
I think that they're the team. I think these 2 weeks, these 2 games for the 49ers, if they win today, these are the only 2 games the 49ers haven't really had. I mean, teams that are very well rounded, like they are, and have a really good matchup against them. But I want the Birds next week. A little early prediction in the NFC Championship. We'll see how the winner of today's game plays today, though. But I mean, that team, they were just running all over the Giants. I mean, they looked well rested, as they should, getting that first round bye. Just getting first down after first down all game. I mean, Giants just had no chance. I mean, 26 first downs to 13. Eagles went 10 of 14 on 3rd down. And just the defense, I mean, just laying hits the whole night. I mean, even when the Giants were trying to get a garbage time drive on the last drive of their season, the Eagles were laying hit sticks on them.
Yeah.
And time ran out. So very, very tough ending for New York Giants fans. But I don't think any of them thought they'd make it this far and be, one of the final 7-8 teams remaining in the dance. So good season for them. But the Birds, maybe a team of destiny this year. We'll see.
Absolutely. Could be a team of destiny this season without a doubt. So we take a look now at the next matchup that happens at 3:30 today, I believe. Yes. No, 3 o'clock. The Cincinnati Bengals will head to Buffalo to take on the Bills. This is the game that would have happened in Cincinnati back in Week 17. But, of course, we all know the events that happened on that field that led to the game's cancellation. We're very glad for Damar Hamlin's swift recovery. But, of course, he's definitely sitting back and hoping the Bills will take it to the Bengals this week, as the Bengals come in off a very tough win, and as well as the Bills, too. Both teams really kind of had to really deke and dunk it out with their divisional rivals. 24-17 was the final, as the Bengals managed to take down Tyler Huntley and the Baltimore Ravens, who the Ravens were on the doorstep of taking the lead themselves. However, a fumble on the 2-yard line resulted in a 98-yard touchdown return for Sam Hubbard, and the Bengals never let the lead go after that. They looked just a little off. But for the Bills, you look at them in last week's game, a tough win at home over Miami. Final was 34-31. And at half, this team only led 20-17, even with Skylar Thompson starting at the quarterback position. So both teams come off tough wins, but I think we're going to see a totally different game today.
Yeah, both these teams coming off of very difficult, tough wins. The Bengals, they looked awful last week in their victory. They won it on defense with that 98-yard touchdown return by Sam Hubbard in a play that should have never even happened, if we could be completely honest. A 3rd and goal, quarterback sneaked from the 2-yard line. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I think this is the matchup the NFL wanted. I think it's one the fans wanted as well, so I'm excited for it regardless. But both these teams, like you mentioned, really with some wins with a lot of, warranted question marks surrounding them. I mean, the Bengals looked flat. Joe Burrow was getting sacked a lot. The offensive line was struggling. The defense, kind of was getting burnt by Tyler Huntley in the second half a little bit. And for the Bills, I mean, Mike McDaniel drew up a great game plan with their third string quarterback, Skylar Thompson, put a lot of points on the board, got to Josh Allen, intercepted him too, forced takeaways. And I think that's will be the thing that comes down to today. Who can win this game is who's going to be able to force takeaways, make that big defensive play. And honestly, I think it's the Buffalo Bills. It's a team that I think is a team with a story right now. They're playing for tomorrow. And we all know how that works in the past with the NFL. So Bills are at home. We're looking at a 6-point spread right now, which is a lot for two teams of this caliber. I know Vegas wants the Bills to cover that probably. Yeah. I think the Bengals are going to make this a close game. Joe Burrow, I can't really envision him getting blown out in the playoffs. I know we haven't seen these two teams match up in the past in the Burrow-Allen era. I mean, since Burrow became a starter 2 years ago, this is their first matchup because that last game doesn't count, So this is going to be probably the one that's the matchup that's circled on everyone's schedule this weekend. Mm-hmm. I think everyone's looking forward to this game the most, arguably. I think they saved the two best matchups for today. And I think Buffalo is going to take it by a final score of 33-28. The over is going to hit. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Burrow's going to make some plays, but Josh Allen will prevail at the end. And it kind of shows his clutching. I mean, if Josh Allen loses this game, if you really think about it, we're looking at Joe Burrow as a guy who's 5-1 in the playoffs and Allen's sub 500. This would be a big shift in the narrative on who's a better quarterback. And I think going to the offseason, if the Bengals win this game, everyone's going to have Burrow ahead of Allen, which I don't know if I agree with, but it would be kind of rightfully so. And this is a big game for both these guys' legacies, I believe. As crazy as that sounds so early in their careers. But, we're looking at Josh Allen as a guy who's already 0-2 against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. 0-1 against Deshaun Watson, too, if you want to talk about that. But,
yeah.
Joe Burrow, man, magical postseason ride last year. He's done the same thing before. He won 2 road playoff games against really good football teams last January. And let's see if he can do it again today. But I think it'll be close, but the Bills sneak away just barely.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think what we see out of this season is any time in the NFL, when you see, or even in sports in general, whenever there's any source of tragedy that occurs in the league, we usually see a team prevail over the adversity that's presented to them. In this case, the Bills with Damar Hamlin, they want to win this thing for him. He won't be there to do it with them, but he's there in spirit, and they're going to use that spirit to really drive themselves ahead in this one. Trust me, I think the Bengals are actually going to come ready to play today. I think last week was just
very too.
Because, like we said, week 18, they play Baltimore, and then next week they play them again. Same location. So, of course, the Ravens are going to come more adjusted. This is the third time they get to play in the season, but it's back-to-back weeks. So it's like, hey, we've seen you already a week ago. We know how to adjust to that. And to be honest, if the Ravens had Lamar Jackson, I think they might have walked away with the victory in Cincinnati.
Yeah,
I just think too. That's the thing. Bengals, though, I think this is what's going to happen in this one. They're going to get ahead early because the Bills have done this before, where in matchups, they usually start off a little bit slow in that first quarter before they really start to let the wheels turn and get themselves moving down the field. I think the Bengals will get ahead for much of this one, but it's going to be lower than 30 points in this one. And I think it's going to come down to a game-winning drive for Josh Allen, trailing 26-21 to put the Bills on top 28-21. 28-26 will be the final score in this one. Or actually, no, 29, because they're going to go for 2 and they're going to get it. So they have
I was going to say, Chet.
Yeah. So final score in that one, 28-26. Bengals, they definitely bring a lot to the table in this one. I just think Buffalo, talent-wise, and the way this team is operating this year is just completely different from what we've seen in the past. I think they're finally on the pace that they've needed to be since they got Josh Allen. And Josh Allen looks better than he ever has, really, in terms of recent memory. It's going to be a tough one. I think the Bengals are going to play well. That run game just hasn't really been there for me to be convinced that Joe Mixon is going to go off today. I think it's going to be relied mostly on Burrow to really make a lot of the plays. And Allen, it's going to be switched up between Cook, Singletary, and himself in that run game. In the pass game, they're not going to stop Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs is just clearly a top 3 receiver, top 5 receiver in the NFL right now. And last week he had over 100 yards. Even Gabe Davis had over 100 yards in that one. So I just think the Bills, even though the Bengals have a lot of great weapons respectively, the Bills just have too much going for them, and I think they'll walk away with this win, 29-26.
Okay, I like it. I got a game-winning drive written up as well, so
yeah,
I'm feeling similarly about this one.
Absolutely. So now we'll take a look to the Bay Area as the Dallas Cowboys managed to absolutely dominate Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week. We'll likely see, that's likely the last game we'll see Tom Brady in a Buccaneers uniform. Teammates even hinting at that he won't be there next year. But the Cowboys, this is a team that most people were doubting on. And I was like, you know what, dude? I'm taking the chance. The Cowboys look like a totally different ball club this year. And the last week was the first time this team has won a road playoff game in over 30 years. That
crazy.
Is
crazy when you're America's team, you know?
Yeah, America's team has not won a road playoff game in 30 years, but they did it. And now they're here, and it's a rematch of last year and a 23-17 loss in the wild card round in Dallas. This one taking place in San Francisco. And Micah Parsons even said in an interview this week, he's excited. This is the matchup he wanted to play. Cowboys are going to come ready, but we saw a very dominating win by the San Francisco 49ers. And this team has proven it is a second half team. They trailed 17-16 and ended up running away with the game at the end of it. I believe the final score is what, 41-23? Yeah. Scored 23 unanswered in the second half. Only held the Seahawks to 7 or 8 points in that second half, that whole game. This defense in the regular season was number 1 in the NFL in terms of total yards allowed. And then in terms of offense, they were number 5 in the league. Brock Purdy has really matured into the starter. Now the Niners are even questioning if Trey Lance will be a backup next season or if they're just going to trade him. And it's crazy because this is a quarterback they traded 3 first-rounders to get. And then they go with Mr. Irrelevant in the postseason.
Crazy. It's crazy how it all works. I mean, Brock Purdy looking at the steal of the draft, maybe the steal of the last 10 years if they can end up winning the Super Bowl with him behind the helm. Yeah, I mean, what a ride through for the Niners. Not only have they been dominating teams, they've only been beating teams, they've been really dominating most of these games. They've won 11 of their 14 games this year by double-digit points. Have not won. The last one possession victory was against the Raiders in Week 17, but that was just a crazy game. This is a real test though, because if we're being completely honest, the Niners, they haven't really played a great team like the Cowboys. I mean, are really one of those better teams. Their last game against a playoff team was the Seahawks, but to be honest, the Niners just had the Seahawks number this year. We all have the Chargers too. They played them during this win streak. So, honestly, not a lot of competition that the Niners have played. It's kind of been a narrative around the NFC this year. You heard it with the Eagles, but this is one of those games I think where Niners really show who they are, show what they're made of. Cowboys have really good offense, really good defense. Dak had one of the best games of his career last week. But I think today, the Niners, they're going to continue that stretch of winning games by double-digit points, win 12 of 15 by 10 or more. I think they're going to win today, 34-24. The Niners at home. But the Cowboys could win this game. If they run the ball well, they force takeaways, because no one's been forcing takeaways in the Niners. No one's been able to just clog up these wide open gaps in the field this year against the Niners. I mean, you look at the Niners play football. They have a guy wide open on every play. I mean, these completions look so easy for Brock Purdy more often than not. Maybe the Cowboys are the team that has the number. But what I've seen, no team really has so far, and that's why I'm taking the Niners today again to win their, believe 12th in a row. So crazy,
absolutely, yeah. I mean, I like the matchup here. I think this is going to be a very close game, just like last season. It's going to be high scoring, though, in my opinion, and I think it's going to come down to the wire. It's just going to be a back and forth. We're going to see Brock Purdy make a couple of mistakes in this one, as the Cowboys' defense looks a lot better than it did last season. And for the Niners, I think they're still going to have a great offensive scheme drawn up. The Cowboys, too. It's just going to be a back and forth. It's going to be one of those fun NFL matchups that we get to watch. The defenses will get involved, maybe even get a score for all we know. But I think we'll see strong run games out of Christian McCaffrey, Tony Pollard, and Ezekiel Elliott. And then, of course, in the passing game, Prescott and Purdy really battling it out. But this is Purdy's job on the line because, I mean, hey, people are already saying, hey, this is the next, this is our next Lord and Savior in San Francisco. This is a guy who literally just came onto the scene late in the season to relieve Jimmy Garoppolo. And we're talking
Lord
about
and Savior. That was funny.
Yeah, and like the thing is like, okay, I love the Brock Purdy hype, but at the end of the day, if the Niners win the Super Bowl with him, that's, in and of itself an achievement, and it clearly shows, yes, he's given the starting job. But now the question comes next season, is he going to be able to do what he did this year, or will teams better prepare for him and he'll just become the real Mr. Irrelevant that we would expect him to be, considering he was the last pick of the draft? It's very rare, as we saw with Tom Brady. It's in the same position. We're talking about the same thing here, almost mirroring that, because you see Bledsoe down. Brady's the next guy up, never lost the starting job. Garoppolo, Purdy. Garoppolo and Lance hurt. Purdy maybe will take the job, but we don't know. People are writing the story before it's even written. Today will tell a lot about that. However, I think the tale will continue of Brock Purdy going into next week. The Niners will take this one. It'll be a tough win with over 300 yards by each offense, respectively. We might see 700 to 800 yards, respectively, by these offenses total.
We might.
And final score in this one: Niners win the game, tied 36-36 off a 40-yard field goal from Robbie Gould to send them to the NFC Championship final, 39-36.
Wow. It's a very cute prediction. It's a lot of points. It's a lot of points.
It's a lot of
points. I like
it,
Chet. I like where your head's at. It's going to be a fun one. And I think I might take back what I said about the Bengals-Bills game. This might be the game that everyone's looking forward to the most. I mean, these are two of the most famous teams in pro football history. I think when you kind of knew that these two teams would be playing, you kind of knew what time the game would be at. It was going to be in that late Sunday window on Fox. So This is America's game of the week. Got two of the NFL's finest franchises competing, trying to get what would be the sixth Lombardi for either of these teams. And these two teams, they have not won a Super Bowl since before we were even born. I mean, 1995 season was the last time either of these teams won a Super Bowl. So it's been a while. I think one of these squads thinks they're due. And this is going to be a game with tremendous implications going down the stretch.
Absolutely. And of course,
this is a big legacy game for Dak Prescott too. If he wins this game, I think people will stop talking about him like he's a scrub.
Yeah, because right now
he's a scrub that he chokes. But Dak Prescott has been one of the finest quarterbacks in the NFL the last 7 seasons. So definitely big legacy game for him. He's really got to step up and show what he's made of in this moment.
And if they do win this game, they'll take on their division rivals for the third straight time this season in Philly, which would be that'd be the greatest card you get.
Eagles Cowboys NFC Championship would be awesome. That
would be legendary right there. This game in and of itself, there's a lot of history because, of course, you got Joe Montana throwing the Dallas Clark in the end zone for the catch to really get the Niners on that dynasty run that they had with Joe Montana. And, of course, the Cowboys-Niners rivalry, it's just something that we all known for a long time. But, of course, a rivalry like that, an NFC East rivalry in the conference championship game, couldn't have drawn that up any better.
No cap. Couldn't have drawn up any better.
So
I think the league would love it for ratings. So
yeah. So
they are.
That takes us to the final segment, the locks and picks. Of course, Tim just mentioned, or Duffy in this case, he took all the home teams. I took the Giants, so I'm already off to a loss. But last week, 5 out of 1 games correct for Chet, and then 4 out of 2 correct for Duffy. So the records right now sit at 25-18 for Chet.
Wait, what? You said 4 out of 2?
4 and 2. That's what I meant to say.
What was your record?
5-1.
5-1. Wow. Okay.
So Chet is now 25-18. Duffy is 26-16-1.
I like it.
It's getting
25-18. So I still have a game and a half lead.
Yeah, game and a half lead right now. So a lot to look at. And so we'll see what happens. There's still 3 matchups to predict after this week. Obviously, I feel like if you get all these right, it's basically I'm dead to rights at this point. So I need you to lose at least one. Or actually,
Yeah,
I
we'll
can't.
see.
I can't because if I lose, I'm basically toast. But
We'll see, man. There's
Yeah,
still a lot of stuff to do.
absolutely. But
I'll definitely win, so it's fine. But whatever.
yeah, so we will try to be back at our same schedule this week. We might just have to do a show tomorrow, honestly.
I have to run it back up tomorrow. Give our players of the week,
Absolutely.
and be great.
Be great as always.
These 2
So
games we got today. So
yeah,
great weekend of football. I mean, yesterday was okay, but today it's going to make up for it. So I'm very excited.
very excited myself. Thank you all for tuning into this week's episode of Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. And of course, we'll be back tomorrow with more, with our recap of the final 2 games of the divisional round, and then give you a preview for this week potentially. But until then, this is Chet and Duffy signing off, and we'll catch you all in the next one. And as always,
Go Pats.
go Pats.